Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to the summer 2017 forecast from GazWeathers.com. So over the past 3 months we've been looking at various analogues. We've also been looking at long range seasonal models, and now we've come to the end of the season of updates. It's time to put everything together. It's time to put the analogues together with the long range models and try and come up with a forecast for the United Kingdom for the summer of 2017. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. Before I get to the forecast, I've just got some more analogues to get through. We're going to look at the pattern we've had during this May for this video, and we'll be going through years that have a similar type pattern to what we've had during this May, see what the effect of that could be through the summer. Then we'll look at all the analogues that we've been exploring through the season. So we've looked at warm Marches, dry Aprils, developing El Nino, that kind of thing. Put it all together, and then we'll add the seasonal models to that, and we will attempt to come up with a forecast for the United Kingdom summer of 2017. We did the final seasonal model roundup yesterday, usually on Saturday. So if you haven't seen that yet, that's actually on the winter updates page, and you can go there and have a look at that at your leisure. So it's going to be quite a long video. You can't watch it all in one go. Don't worry, it's going to be placed on the summer forecast page later on today. There'll be a written report that goes with it as well. So if you can't watch the video all in one go, you can come back, watch it whenever you want. There's also going to be a written report to have a look at as well. Right, better get cracking. So we're going to start off with looking at this May's pattern, and then going back and having a look at some years that had a similar pattern. I say similar because actually there doesn't appear to be a direct match for this May. Our good friend James Ackwell, as always, has been looking at the analogues for us. He's our analogues guru at GazWeathers. A big thank you to James for all of his help and input again through this season of updates. So James has been looking at years in terms of the analogues. Hasn't really been able to find a direct match. There are some years that are similar. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly reanalysed for this month, for May 2017. Quite an unusual pattern. We've had a lot of blocking around Greenland and a ridge extending down through western parts of Europe, rather like that. There's been quite a deep trough in the Atlantic that's been sort of cut off out there, and overall we have a lot of dry settled, and we know it's turning increasingly warm as well, so turning out to be quite a dry and warm month this May. Not as dry as the past 2 spring months, but certainly high pressure has been more dominant this month compared to low pressure. So let's have a look at some past years with a similar type setup. So the first year we're starting with is May 1887. That one had a ridge out to the west, a trough to the east, and bringing the winds down probably rather like that. So it would have been a fairly dryish but quite coolish month. May 1907 is our next one. A lot of blocking around Greenland with that one, and a deep trough in the Atlantic. That one looks really unsettled. I'm going to have to rattle through these very quickly because I've got a lot to discuss for this summer forecast video. 1909 is our next May with a similar pattern. Again, not identical, but it is similar, ridging high pressure over Greenland, ridging down the rest of Europe, trough to the east, trough to the west. That looks like it would probably be quite a cool one. 1915 perhaps is quite a close match. That has, May 1915 has a ridge out to the northwest, low pressure to the east and to the south as well. A lot of dry and settled weather coming in with that. Probably quite on the quite cool, I would have thought. The wind flow would probably be more sort of northeasterly. May 1928 is the next year. A lot of blocking around Greenland, low pressure underneath it, and again opening the door to that northeasterly wind. That looks like quite an unsettled and cool one. 1933, our next May, with a similar pattern, low pressure in the Atlantic, ridging up there and going down there. 1950 is the next one. This was a very settled May, above average heights extending through most of northern and central Europe as well. 1952 is the next year. That one has quite a lot of blocking up to the north and also extending down over UK. That's probably quite a close-ish match to May of 2017. I asked Joan to throw in May 1957 because that, it's been following the analogues through this season. 1957 is kind of the year we've been very close to in terms of the things that we've been looking at, such as developing El Nino, warm Marches, dry Aprils, that kind of thing. However, not really a very good match for May. This is what the 500 millibar high anomaly looks like for May 1957, ridging out to the northwest. A deep trough over much of Europe, and probably quite a coolish month with a wind coming in from a northeasterly direction. That compares, of course, with what we've seen for May 2017, which is a much warmer type scenario. So possibly for May we have broken a little bit in terms of 1957. 1965 is our next year. Again, not a perfect match by any means. This one has a really deep trough over much of central, eastern and northeastern Europe. It does have a blocking up to the north, but that looks like quite a cold month with winds regularly coming from a northerly direction. 1968 next. This one just looks very unsettled. So again, it's not a great match. Really high pressure is in over Greenland. 1969 also very similar. Again, it looks quite an unsettled month, May 1969, with low pressure close to UK ridging up to the north. May 1980 is our next month. Again, we have blocking up to the north, low pressure there, and it looks like quite a coolish easterly type month for May 1980. May 1993 next, and we've got blocking up to the north, but also extending through Scandinavia, so you'd expect quite a lot of easy winds because that's preceding the cool summer that we had in 1993, although May 1993 was quite a warm month. 1997, now this is interesting, I'll come back to this later, but 1997 is in the pack. If you've been following the analogues updates, you'll know that 1997 is a modern year that has been aligning quite closely to May 20 to the year, the spring of 2017. So I'll discuss that a little bit more later on. 2008 is next. We've got well, this was a very dry and warm May in 2008. Of course, it turned into a really poor summer, but for May in 2008, very warm month and a lot of dry weather as well, with high pressure up to the north. That's perhaps a fairly close match to this year. And then we've got 2012 in the pack as well. So that one, again, quite a lot of ridging. It's not a perfect match by any means, but quite a lot of ridging close to the country. Again, that turned into a very poor summer. So let's have a look and see what these summers turned out like that followed these Mays that we're just looking at. So we're coming back to 1887. This is how the 500 millibar height anomaly looks for the summer of 1887. Lot of ridging up to the north, and that ridging does extend down through the UK. Low pressure in the Atlantic and over there. That's probably quite a settled summer, and although not overly hot, I would have thought it might have had its moments and been quite warm at times. The summer of 1907 was very, very unsettled. Deep trough in over the country. That looks like a really cool and wet summer in 1907, as does 1909. We keep that ridging out to the northwest, low pressure through the country, and again, opening the door to those northerly, northeasterly winds. 1915 also looks a very unsettled summer, with low pressure centred more or less around the UK and going up to the north of the country as well, with the blocking signal. 1928 to summer of 1928 looks very unsettled again. Cool, wet, low pressure driving in from the Atlantic. Notice the blocking going on up here. And then we go through to 1933. This is a better summer. It's a drier summer. We've got ridging towards Scandinavia and also out to west of us. Low pressure is down in the southeast of Europe. Quite interestingly, that was was a drier summer in 1933. 1950, we're back to very unsettled signal, low pressure driving in off the Atlantic. 1952, this was a cool summer, high pressure out to the west, low pressure to the east, bringing the wind down from the north. Reminder of 1957, what that was like, has been running very closely in terms of the analogues through this season of updates, although May 2017 perhaps diverging from May 1957 quite a bit, but the summer of 1957 anyway was fairly unsettled, high pressure to the northwest, low pressure to the east-northeast. Remember, it's a front-loaded summer, so we had a really warm June, a lot of dry weather in June, and then it gradually deteriorated, so by the time we got through to August, we actually had an early autumn in 1957. 1965 was just a terrible summer, really deep trough across most parts of Europe. That's another one of those really cold and wet 1960s summers. 1968 looks a little bit better. It wasn't a classic summer at all, but it did have more in the way of ridging, so it was on the drier side, but there was quite a bit of rain coming through at times in 1968, and temperatures weren't anything to write home about. But 1969 was a good summer. That was one of the best summers, perhaps the best summer of the 1960s, with high pressure to the northeast and extending through the UK anomalously with the wind in from the east. That was a pretty decent summer in 1969. There weren't many of them in the 60s as well, I can assure you of that. 1980, we're back to very unsettled looking signal, low pressure through the UK, high pressure up to the north. And then we go through to 1993. The summer of 1993 looks like that. Low pressure to the northeast, high pressure out to the north and to the west of the country. Quite a cool summer, 1993, although it did have a decent June. 1997, so we've got the high pressure in over Scandinavia, we've got low pressure down to the south, a lot of easterly winds through the summer of 1997, and eventually becoming very, very hot in August 1997. 2008 was just a very, very poor summer indeed. High pressure up to the north, low pressure around the UK. And 2012 was also a very grim summer. So there's a lot of grim summers in with this. With these last lot of analogues actually looking at the pattern that we've had this May. But the caveat, of course, is that most of these years are not real pattern matches to this year. It does look as though May 2017 has been a very unique and different month. This is how all years combine look. If you go right the way back to the first year, 1887, which is up there, of course, and then down to the summer of 2012, which is down there. This is how all years combined, including 1957, come out, and it's a very unsettled looking signal. We've got blocking to the north, we've got low pressure through the country, and we bring those winds in rather like that. So that's just looking at how the pattern has been during the course of this May. But now let's put everything together, and keep in mind with that we haven't really got a direct pattern match actually to this May 2017 to any past year. So it looks like I've had a fairly unique and one-off month for May 2017. Let's go through and put all of the analogues together that we've been looking at. So we're going to go through to this chart just here, this table. And so this combines everything. It has all the years on the side. James has developed this for us, by the way. Big thank you to James for doing that. So we've got all the summers there on the side. We've got the summer CETs just there, and their temperature anomalies just there. And then we've got all the things that we've been looking at through the season. So we've got ENSO there, the years that are developing, suns that are developing into El Nino events, or ENSO neutral on the warm side. Then we've got the warm Marches, the dry Aprils, and then we get the May pattern. And the May pattern is very difficult because it has been quite a unique month, but James has done his best to try and come up with some years that he thinks are closest to the pattern that has occurred during May 2017. Now, most of these years, or all of these years actually, are going to have at least one element of one analog, if you like, that is connecting with 2017. So, for example, 1899, that is a developing El Nino summer. However, it doesn't really connect in terms of the warm March or the dry April or May's pattern. So, essentially, you can probably take 1899 out of this. And again, another year that you could look at potentially is 1929, because that one had a dry April, similar to what we've had during 2017, but it doesn't really connect in terms of what's happening with ENSO, doesn't really connect with warm March, and it doesn't really connect with the May pattern either. So again, that one is a very weak analog. You're looking essentially for the years that have the greatest number of connecting analogues. So you're looking for years with at least two, essentially. So, for example, we've got 1938 here that had a warm March and a dry April. Doesn't really connect with El Nino, and it doesn't really connect in terms of the May pattern either. So 2 out of 4 analogues do connect between 1938 and 2017. Another year that has 2 is, let's go down to a more modern year, shall we? So another year that has 2, I'm looking for one that has 2, it's probably 2012, actually, and that has 3, to be honest, in 2012, which perhaps isn't good news for our summer prospects. So 2012 is just there. That has an El Nino signal that's similar to what's going on right now. It's trying to develop into an El Nino. It also has a warm March. It does have a dry April, so that doesn't connect. And the May pattern is quite similar as well. So you've got 3 there. Obviously, that is a fairly decent connection between 2017 and 2012. It looks like the best years, however, are 2. And those years are going to be 1957, which I'm going to find. Where is it? There's 1957 just there. And also 1997 down here. And out of the 2, 1997 is possibly the best match. So let's deal with 1957 first of all. The summer central temperature comes out at 15.6, which is about average, really. However, we know that it's summer of 2 halves. We have a very hot first half, and it deteriorates rapidly in the second half. It does have the signal for a developing El Nino through that summer. It has a warm March. It has a dry April. Doesn't really connect all that well, however, for the May pattern. But overall, 1957 remains quite a compelling year to compare to 2017. But to me, I think the best year is potentially 1997. This is a warm summer. It has central temperature of 16.6, which includes a hot August. It is a developing El Nino, and it's going into a very strong El Nino, which we're not going to do, don't think we're going to do this year. But we are moving towards El Nino very gradually, and certainly on the warmer side of ENSO neutral. So in terms of that, maybe it's a little bit questionable, but the really strong part of the El Nino of 1997, 1998 didn't get going till later in the year anyway. So I think in terms of ENSO, not ideal, but it's not too bad. And then, of course, we've got the warm March from 2017 and 1997. We've got the dry April through 1997 and 2017. And also the pattern for May is quite similar as well, certainly in terms of the blocking. It was a slightly wetter month, I think, than we're having for 2017. But overall, I think 1997, it is a more modern year compared to 1957, which is a long time ago. And whilst it is a long time ago, and that doesn't rule out the chance that we might sort of repeat it, have to bear in mind that we've had a lot of warming taking place of the climate since the 1950s. So for a more modern year, I think 1997 and possibly 2012 are the 2 to go. And they're very contrasting summers bows. 1970 is a hot summer, becomes a hot summer eventually. 2012 is a very poor summer, as we know. The last thing I want you to look at through this table is the unusual amount of very hot summers that are appearing within this. So whilst the summers overall are probably split 50-50 between the warmer and the colder summers, I haven't got time to go through them all, but I suspect there's about a 50-50 split between the warmer and the colder summers. There are some very hot summers in there. So, for example, we've got 1933, which has an anomaly of 2 degrees above average, a hot summer. We've got 1911, which has an anomaly, again, of nearly 2 degrees. That was hot summer, very hot in July. We've got 1899 in with these years. Again, that's another hot summer. And then we come down to 1955, where is it? There's 1955. That became very hot in the second half of the summer. It only has an anomaly of 1 degree above average, but that's because it started off quite cool and then became really hot later on. We go further down and we find 1976. If you've been following the Analogues updates, you'll know that 1976 has always been there within the analogues. It isn't there for the May analogues that we just looked at, but overall it has been a fairly compelling year that has repeatedly cropped up. That's the daddy of the summers, with an anomaly, temperature anomaly of over 2 degrees above average. It does have 2 out of 4 of the analogues connecting with 2017. That means 2 out of the 4 don't connect. We can come down to another summer, 1995. Notice some really, really hot classic summers are appearing within these analogues. That has an anomaly of 1.8 degrees above average. It only has one analogue that's connecting to 2017, and that's for dry April, but it is there within the pack again. And then, of course, 1997, which is a hot summer. It has a summer anomaly of 1 degree above average, but it connects quite well in terms of all the things that we've been looking at, all of the analogues that we've been looking at. Yes, it became very hot later on. It wasn't all that hot in June, it became very hot later on. We've also got 2006, our last classically hot summer in there as well. That coming out with a CT of 17.2, 1.5 degrees above average. That has the all-time hottest July on record. So there are a lot of hot summers, a lot of classically hot summers. Our best summers on record, if you like, are cropping up with perhaps more regularity than you would expect just from chance. So what does all this mean in terms of the Gaz Weather Vids forecast? It's time to, we've brought it all together, it's time to issue the forecast. I think it's a little bit risky because there are some poor summers in there, but I think overall we are looking at quite a good summer potentially this year. I'd not be ruling out the chance of a very hot summer, although that isn't going to be the Gaz Weather Vids forecast, because there aren't enough years with enough analogues that are connecting to 2017 to go for that. But those very, very hot years, they're with more regularity, appearing with more regularity within that table than you would expect. So therefore, we can't rule out the chance of a really hot summer, I don't think, this year. As it is, I'm going to go for a significantly warmer than average summer. I think temperature anomalies could well be over 1 degree, let's say between 1 degree and 2 degrees above average. I think we're going to have a really warm summer at times. It could get very hot, although I don't think it's sustained heat. It probably breaks down quite quickly, and then we get thunderstorms, and then the heat comes back and builds again, that kind of summer. But I think it's going to be one of the best summers that we've had potentially for quite a long time. I'm probably digging my grave a little bit here with this, but I am quite bullish really about the chance of what could be a really good summer for the UK this year. So the Gaz Weather Vids forecast is for a significantly warmer than average summer, Probably not a classically hot summer, but we can't rule that out, that we might set up a sustained blocking pattern and turn things really hot over a sustained period. In terms of the best month of the summer, I'd punt for July or August, actually, and maybe August might be in with a shout of being the best month out of the three. Now, for precipitation, it's very, very hard to pin that down. So what I'm going to say with that is that I think the precipitation is going to be very localised. There could be some very wet weather at times, from thundery downpours, from thunderstorms. But equally, there will be sustained periods of dry conditions as well. And if some places get unlucky and don't get many thunderstorms, then actually it could turn into a very dry summer for those areas. So there'll be a lot of regional variation, I think, in terms of precipitation for this summer. Some places could have quite a wet summer. Some places could actually have quite a dry summer. It'd just be a case of where these hit and miss thunderstorms are occurring. But overall, I do think we're in for a decent summer this year. Probably one of the best summers that we've had during this decade, because it hasn't been a great decade for summer conditions. So that's the GavsWeatherVids.com summer 2017 forecast. It's the best I can do for you. So I'm going for a significantly warmer than average summer, not ruling out the chance of a classically hot summer, one of the best summers that we've recorded, but I don't think we'll get quite to that level, but I do think it's going to be a very warm summer. Rainfall, I think, is likely to be hit and miss. Some places could get quite a wet summer, other places could have quite a dry summer. It'll just depend where these heavy showers and thunderstorms crop up. Right, as ever, we'll see how it goes. And of course, when we get to the end of the season, when we move on into autumn, we will come back and evaluate this forecast. It could be totally wrong. As I always say, long-range forecasting is highly experimental. It's not to be relied upon. It could very, very easily, this forecast, go down the pan. I'm not confident. I'm never really that confident about summer, because it's the hardest season of the four to forecast for, because the signals are always so weak. So it is a very difficult season to forecast for anyway, made particularly difficult this year due to the uniqueness of the weather patterns that we've been experiencing. So it could all go horribly wrong. If it does, obviously we'll face up to that when we get through to next season. We always do an evaluation of the long-range forecast and see how we've done. So it'll just be a case of waiting and see what happens. I don't change things as we go along. I don't sort of do rolling forecasts. So once these long-range forecasts are issued, that's it. And then we just wait and see how they pan out. So that's the summer forecast from Gavs Weathervids. Now that's out of the way, the bandwagon rolls on, and later on today we're going to have a little sneak peek for the autumn, because that's where the long-range updates will be going to next. Of course, for the next 3 months we'll be doing regular updates for the autumn, culminating in the autumn 2017 forecast issued at the end of August. So come back later on for the sneak peek for the autumn of 2017. That's the Gavs Weathervids summer 2017 forecast. Big thank you to all of you for sticking with us over the past 3 months. Hope you found videos interesting and informative. Big thanks to James, as always, for giving us the analogues and sending all this information through. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.